Described as the gay Louis B. Mayer, the big producer during the golden age of Hollywood, Shan Sayles was a big, boisterous man who owned movie theaters, produced films, and cemented his mark on the early days of all erotic film. On this episode, we're going to celebrate Shan Sayles, a legendary exhibitor and one of the first entrepreneurs to comprehensively hire gay men to perform in, direct, write, and edit erotic gay films. This is Demystifying Gay Porn. My name is Ike Grande, and if you watch gay porn, I've definitely helped to get off. Shan Vincent Sayles was born on December 22nd, 1934 in Michigan. Not much is publicly known about his childhood and life before he became who he was. Sayles' entrance into the film exhibition industry, his pioneering work in pornographic film exhibition and distribution, was a result of his earlier innovations in art house exhibition. Art house theaters were known for screening European imports to an educated elite, but gained notoriety in the 1950s when some theaters began to promote these films as more sexually liberal than domestic productions. After working his way up the theater industry ladder in Michigan and California, Sayles became the manager of the Apollo, an art house theater on Hollywood Boulevard in Los Angeles. In 1959, Sayles became manager of the Lido Theater in West Pico and quickly moved on to shift the general release theater to an art house policy. Sayles scheduled the film L'Amant de Lady Châtelet, Lady Châtelet's Lover, a French adaptation of the D.H. Lawrence novel, and a film that was the subject of controversy for years, when New York's censor board had effectively banned the film for presenting adultery as being right and desirable for certain people under certain circumstances. Before adding the film to his program, the New York ban was struck down by the Supreme Court in Kingsley International Pictures Corporation versus Regents 360 U.S. 684. Open since 1923, the Continental Theater was already historic by 1959 when Variety reported it was bought by a Detroit exhibitor and a group of private investors. In December 1959, the theater was renamed the Vista Continental and transitioned to an art house policy. From this point forward, Sayles and his partner Violet Sawyer co-operated the Vista Continental and programmed European art films while also continuing to screen Soviet imports for the already established Russian immigrant community. Meanwhile, in mid-1960, Alex Cooperman, a foreign film distributor who was previously employed for distributors in the eastern states, acquired the Apollo Theater that Sayles had formerly managed for the Fox West Coast chain. Under Cooperman, the theater became the Apollo Arts and was transitioned to an art house policy, similar to Sayles' strategy for the Lido and the Vista Continental. By the end of 1960, Cooper and Sayles joined forces with local lawyer entrepreneur Eugene Burchin to acquire the Carmel Theater on Santa Monica Boulevard. The three reopened the theater as an art house and incorporated their venue as the Paris Theater. It was around this time that the trio would employ a young, ambitious Monroe Beeler, who began his career at a competing theater. By the early 1960s, sexual subject matter and nudity in motion pictures were increasingly permissible due to high court decisions. To quench the audience's thirst for these films and to save money, American art house cinemas began to program independently produced American softcore films, and the Continental was at the forefront of this strategy. Then, in the late 1960s, Continental began to curate programming for the area's gay audiences that had been theatergoers for several years, which was a bold thing to do since during this time, same-sex intimacy, especially on film, was usually censored. In 1966, the Continental began screening physique films. Then the Continental purchased the Alvarado Theater in MacArthur Park and reopened the theater as the new luxurious park, with a double feature of the Hollywood studio films Flight of the Phoenix and What a Way to Go. The theater quickly shifted to playing exploitation films, And also, in a legendary event in the history of gay cinema, Sayles shifted the Park Theater to a gay film policy in 1968 and held the first gay film festival, advertised with a spread in the Los Angeles Advocate. The first gay program featured underground films by Kenneth Anger, the Meekus Brothers, Andy Warhol, Jack Smith, and Shirley Clark, alongside erotic shorts by Pat Rocco and Andy Milligan. In the coming months, the theater continued to exhibit gay shorts from local studios, including those of Pat Rocco and Bob Mizer, and would eventually commission feature-length films. By the end of the 1960s, Continental had formed its own production and distribution arm, Signature Films. Monroe Beeler and Shan Sayles were responsible for the early production of Signature Films. Signature used an old theater on Adams Boulevard in Los Angeles for staging and offices and shot 16mm softcore features, both gay and straight there. Signature Films would go on to release such films as The Collection, an all-male adaptation of William Wyler's The Collector, Pledge Masters, an expose of fraternity hazing, and Highway Hustler, a rough trade narrative that is probably best known as the film that made Wakefield Poole develop Boys in the Sand. The most significant Signature release was the adaptation of the popular gay pulp novel Song of the Loon, a film that was inevitably finished by Monroe Beeler. Beeler worked his way up to the advertising director before exiting Sayles' firm to form his own company, Jaguar. Sayles has been described as an amazing businessman, great for capitalizing on anything. During the 70s, at the height of the Juan Corona killings, a labor contractor in Texas raped and murdered 25 men and buried their machete-hacked bodies in the orchards owned by local farmers. Director Tom DeSimone mentioned in an interview that Sayles immediately called him and told him he wanted to re-release The Collection. DeSimone, turned off by the idea of cashing in on an atrocious event, declined. During all this time, Sayles probably made the most money from gay porn. Other models, producers, and contemporaries have commented on Sayles' business style, and they all range from very sharp or crafty to someone who has fucked over a lot of people and always will. Like it or not, Sayles was one of the best advertisers seen at the time. If he was on your side, you were in luck, but you always had to keep in mind Sayles was a pure businessman who was out for himself. If there was something in it for him, he would do it. If not, he wouldn't. Shan Vincent Sayles died one day before his 82nd birthday on December 21st, 2016, at his home in Carmel, California. Shan Sayles was extremely successful, and his endeavors proved that gay audiences were a viable market, hungry for positive films that expressed their experiences. Yet more than the films he produced, Sayles would be remembered for how his businesses provided space for local gay community formations. You can safely say that Shan Sayles, and even Monroe Beeler, who I highlighted in the last episode, were pioneers of the heterosexual sex market, and then the gay sex market. The birth of all sex films was because of two gay men. The birth of gay erotica was because of two gay men. You've been watching Demystifying Gay Porn. I'm your host, Ike Grande. Demystifying Gay Porn can be found on every podcast directory as well as YouTube. Demystifying Gay Porn is on X, Facebook, Instagram, Substack, Threads. And if you like what you're watching or listening to and want to be a part of the process, head over to patreon.com/demystifying gay porn, where you can support this podcast and YouTube channel, and I can continue making content like you've just enjoyed. As always, don't forget to subscribe, give this video a like, leave a comment, and let me know what else you'd like me to cover. This is Demystifying Gay Porn. My name is Ike Grande, and if you watch gay porn, I've definitely helped you get off.